Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello and good morning, Mr. Dhani Irmawan. We are psychology students at Mercubuana University from 7 group, which consists of Dwianrita Farras Sejati, Sharli Fitria Sriron, Afifah Muslimah Putri, Tasya Camila Ikhsan, and Anindya Paritusti. Next slide, please. At this time, we will present a mini journal entitled The Role of Employee Well-being as a Moderator in the Relationship between Job Creating and Work Engagement of Employees in the New Normal Era, and compiled by Mrs. Adeline Apriliani S.Psi. Next slide, please. Okay, let's start right away. In this slide is an abstract from that research, which states the new normal is a new adaptation to deal with COVID-19, where people are again allowed to do activities in the workforce while still adhering to the protocol. In this new normal situation, work engagement is a challenge for all companies. The purpose of the study was to determine whether job creating has a relationship with work engagement and to determine whether employee well-being has a role as a moderator between job creating and employee work engagement in the new normal era. The subjects of this research are employees who work in Jabodetabek. The instruments used in this study are the Utrecht Work Engagement Scale, or UWES, the Job Crafting Scale, or JCS, and the Employee Wellbeing Scale, or EWBS. The research design was carried out with moderation using accidental sampling technique. Moderate regression analysis in the study used the process V3.5 procedure for SPSS by Andrew F. Hayes. The results showed that job creating had a positive correlation with work engagement, and employee well-being had a moderate role in the relationship between job creating and work engagement. This research is expected to be literary material for employees and companies regarding the importance of understanding the value of work engagement, job creating, and employee well-being for the success of the company. There are keywords that can be used. There are work engagement, job creating, employee well-being, new normal, and employees. Okay, next.
Next is introduction. Since the outbreak of coronavirus spread in Indonesia for the past year, the Indonesian government has implemented a so-called new normal policy adapting to the spread of COVID-19. In the new normal era, we should highlight employees' work engagement, because adapting to a new normal life could reduce employees' productivity at work and the engagement of employee with the company itself. Some of the negative impacts are a pile of work, distraction from family when working at home, lose focus on work, technical problems often occur that could hamper the communication between colleagues and managers. Based on the previous research, a proactive attitude could help optimize work engagement. This is due to a relationship between work engagement and job crafting has. When employees who can manage their work well could increase the work engagement. This condition could happen if the other factor outside the independent variable or job crafting and the dependent variable or work engagement affect or intervene in the relationship between the two. The work engagement quality could determine by the factors of employee well-being. Then, according to Juniper et al., employee well-being is obtained through the work environment. The work environment itself refers to the characteristic of the job, employees' workload, relationship with the colleagues, and facilities at the workplace. There are three research focus. One is the role of employee well-being as a moderator of the relationship between job crafting and employee work engagement. Two is adjusting to the recent context or characteristic, which is the new normal situation around the Jabodetabek area. Three, or to find out the relationship between job crafting and work engagement of employees in the new normal era. Also, to find out the role of employee well-being as the moderator of the relationship between job crafting and employees' work engagement.
Okay, next is literature review from this mini journal. First is work engagement. According to Skyvely, Becker, and Salnova, work engagement is defined as a positive and fulfilling work state of mind characterized by vigor, dedication, and absorption, which refers to a more persistent, effective cognitive state and not focused on a particular object, event, individual, or behavior. Furthermore, Becker and Demerolti mentioned that there are three drivers of work engagement among job research, which refers to the physical aspect, the social, and the organization of work can help employees to achieve business objectives. Salience of job research refers to how employees face and respond to job demands. Personal research refers to an individual's ability to properly control and influence his environment. Next. The second is job crafting. Job crafting as the ability of employees to organize or redesign their work and have limits on change the employees may make in their work tasks, workplace relationship, and cognition about work. Job crafting has 8 factors, namely, first, self-targeting, second, volitional, third, significant change, fourth, semi-permanence, fifth, work role, sixth, identifiable job task, seven, independent of manager approval, and the last is change in intrinsic job characteristics, each of which can affect job crafting. In addition, there are the implications related to job crafting, namely HRD practitioners can improve performance and employee well-being by facilitating job crafting behavior and helping them develop the knowledge and skills needed for their expanded tasks. And the third is employee well-being. Employee well-being is considered as a pleasant or positive emotional state resulting from an appraisal of one's job or work experience. Employee well-being is also inseparable from the psychological experience and level of satisfaction in the work and personal life of the individual concerned. Zhou, and Zhang revealed 3 main dimensions to determine the level of employee well-being. 1. Life well-being. 2. Workplace well-being. And 3. Psychological well-being. And the last is new normal. The COVID-19 pandemic has not only had an impact on health but also human life, which has brought about significant change. This change made the government enforce a new policy called the new normal. New normal is a form of human adaptation in living a life that is carried out outdoors by adhering to health protocols to minimize the spread of the coronavirus. Next, please. So job crafting and work engagement in several previous studies have shown a very close relationship. Work engagement itself is the key to improving employee performance in doing work. The variables used in this study are work engagement, job crafting, and employee well-being, which in employee well-being itself there are several aspects, namely life well-being, workplace well-being, and psychological well-being. For job crafting itself, it improves several aspects, namely structural job research, social job research, and challenging job demands. Then finally, there is work engagement with several aspects, namely vigor, dedication, and absorption.
Okay, now I'm going to present the method in the study. So the research method used in the study is a moderator correlational research method with a quantitative approach. There are three variables that used in the study, such as work engagement as the dependent variable, job crafting as the independent variable, and employee well-being as the moderator variable. The population for this study is active employees with the minimum age of 17 years old, and they are based on Jabodetabek area. The total amount of sample that are used in the study is 533 respondents. The sampling technique that is used in the study is the accidental sampling technique. In the study, researchers use two methods of data collection. The primary data collection technique is a questionnaire, which collects the data by distributing online questionnaires with Google Form, which are distributed through social media. And the secondary data collection techniques are written sources that contain of papers, textbooks, journals, scientific articles, and other documents related to materials in writing. There are three measuring instruments that are used in this study. First is the Utrecht Work Engagement Scale, or UWES. The second is the Job Crafting Scale, or GCS. And the third is the Employee Wellbeing Scale, developed by Zhou Zhang 2015. And then the research instrument that are used in the study is in the form of a questionnaire with a Likert model attitude scale, which contain 5 answers choices such as strongly agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree. Next slide, please. And now I'm going to show you the result of the three variables in this study. So the first one is work engagement as the dependent variable. So based on the hypothetical value, none of the respondents had work engagement in the low category. In fact, 70.6% out of 533 respondents, or equals to 387 respondents, were in the high category. Next slide, please. And the second is job crafting as the independent variable. Based on the hypothetical value, there are no respondents that have job crafting in the low category. In fact, 75.8% out of 533 respondents, or equals to 404 respondents, were in the high category. And next slide, please. And the third is employee well-being as the moderator variable. So based on the hypothetical value, none of the respondents had employee well-being in the low category. In fact, there are 82.9% out of 533 respondents, or equals to 442 respondents, were in the high category. So, based on the result in the study, of all the three variables such as the work engagement, the job crafting, and the employee well-being during the new normal era are remain high. So next.
So next is classical assumption test. There are 5 results from classical assumption test. The first is the result of homoscedasticity test. The data in this study does not occur heteroscedasticity. The second is result of multicollinearity test. In this study, the relationship between work engagement, job crafting, and employee well-being does not occur multicollinearity. And the third is result of homogeneity test. The data in this study have homogeneous data, which means that the data come from the same population. And the next is result of the linearity test. It indicates that the linearity test is fulfilled, or there is linear relationship between the dependent variable and each independent variable to be tested. And the last is result of normality test. The three variables are not normally distributed. Therefore, the research bootstrapper in order to minimize the distribution of abnormal data. Next slide. Hypothesis test. The regression model for each form of the regression line with the regression coefficient of 0.682 x shows that there is a direct relationship between job crafting with work engagement. It shows that the first hypothesis in the study is escaped because the job crafting affect work engagement by 37.3%. The result of moderate regression analysis shows that the value of direct relationship between job crafting and work engagement moderate by the employee well-being is 0.14. This result indicates that the employee well-being plays a role of a moderator in relationship between job crafting with work engagement, which show that the second hypothesis in the study is safe. Based on the result of the analysis strength level of employee well-being as the moderating variable shows that the presence of employee well-being as a moderating variable can strengthen the variable between job crafting and work engagement. The result of analysis of matrix correlation between dimensions shows that job crafting variable with the correlation value of R is equal to 0.515 or P is less than 0.001. Next slide. So this result from table independent test indicate that on the scale of job crafting, there is no difference in answer between male and female respondents. Meanwhile, on the scale of work engagement and employee well-being, there are differences in answer between male and female respondents. And there are three variable results measured using one-way ANOVA. The first variable is work engagement. Based on the result of analysis one-way ANOVA, based on age, the variable employee well-being has a value mean square of 140.869 with an F value is 2,532 is equal 1,873. Then for education factor, it has value mean square of 8.321 with a value of F 2,532 is equal to 0.173. And for the marital status factor, it has value mean square of 11.283 with value F is 2,530. Is equal to 0.211. The second variable is job crafting. Based on the result of analysis one-way ANOVA based on age factor, the variable job crafting has a value mean square of 45.739 with a value of F is 2,532 is equal to 160. Then for the education factor, it has value mean square of 41.525 with an F is value 2,532 is equal 0.900. And the marital status factor has a value mean square of 52.543 with a value of F is 2,532 is equal to 1.229. The last variable is employee well-being. Based on the result of analysis one-way ANOVA based on the age factor, the variable employee well-being has a value mean square of 114.869 with a value of F 1,532 is equal to 1,870. Then the education factor has a value mean square of 122.005 with a value f is 2532 is equal to 2005. And the marital status vector has a value mean square of 153.213 with a value of f is 2532 is equals to 2504. And the next is discussion on this journal. The study conduct a different test 3 variables, namely work engagement, job crafting, and employee well-being related to gender demographic factors, male and female. From this test, the result is that there are no difference between crafting owned by male employee and female employee in this era new normal. In addition, also conduct a test one-way ANOVA related to demographic factor of age, education, and marital status, which was also carried out on 3 variables in the study, namely work engagement, job crafting, and employee well-being. The result of the test one-way ANOVA show there is no difference between work engagement, job crafting, and employee well-being based on demographic factor, both in terms of age, education, and marital status.
Okay, this slide is the last part. The study concludes that there is a positive relationship between job creating and work engagement for employees in the new normal era. So, if the job creating is high, work engagement will be high, and vice versa. Furthermore, there is an interaction of employee well-being in the relationship between job creating and work engagement. Therefore, the employee well-being could moderate the relationship between job creating and work engagement. And their suggestion further research are required to re-examine the employee well-being variable as a moderator variable to expand the literature on the role of employee well-being as a moderator variable associated with other variables. Based on the findings of the current study, suggests that the company should facilitate the employee well-being by engaging with their involvement in order to improve their job creating skills, and the employee should develop their ability to think creatively and behave proactively. So, develops a sense of enthusiasm, high dedication, and high focus on work. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, that's enough the explanation of the mini journal that we translate from Mrs. Adlin. More or less sorry. Thank you and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.